Hey everybody, welcome back to Starkey Farmstead. So let me tell you what just happened. I've been trying to go live for 20 minutes. It will not give me a chat screen. Excuse me. In other words, during this live, you are not going to be able to chat over here where I can see it. Now, you may be able to put and answer questions and comments underneath the video itself. Just know that Samantha cannot see your chat. I don't know why. I've started and stopped this exact video 3 times, trying every way humanly possible to get this on a live chat for you guys. And this is the second time in a couple of days they've done this. Never had this problem in 3 years. And now I have this problem. So thank you, YouTube, for being a piece of junk, as usual. But as you pop on, guys, hit the like button. And if you can comment, please do. Tell me who you are, where you're watching from, because boy, oh boy, does Sam have a video for you today. So I just want to kind of make this point. We're living in a period of time where we have something that's called entertainment. And a lot of people don't pay attention to words anymore. I don't know why we do that. As a culture, we simply don't. But the word entertainment means the act of entertaining, the art, a field of entertaining, the pleasure afforded by being entertained and amused. It also means that which entertains or with which one is entertained. Now, I want to make a point here. There is a word embedded. It is a root word called tain. All right, T-A-I-N. It's a root word. It comes from French and then ultimately the Latin, where the meaning is to hold. So when you see the word entertain, it means more than just to amuse you. It means I'm going to hold you in the amusement. Words have power, a lot of power. So I just want you to understand that when you're looking at movies and things like that, some of it is called predictive programming. And the reason it's called predictive programming is it is to hold you in that spot until the message has been downloaded in its capacity. Today, we're going to be talking about predictive programming, Project Mockingbird. We're going to talk about how President Trump right now is opening up public lands, federally held lands for affordable housing. We're going to talk about how the left sees you and I, people on the right, conservatives, libertarians, some Democrats, how they see us more conservative people, how they truly feel about us and the things that we believe in. So let's talk about this. You're hearing a lot of people say that President Trump is going to destroy the environment by opening up public lands, right? I've heard it. Some of you must have. Do you guys know how much of America is in public lands by any chance? It's going to blow your mind. 28% of America, all the red on this map, is a federally held public land. Look how much of California and Alaska are federal lands. You see that? A couple of those states look like the entire state is a federal land. Have any of you ever heard of the United Nations push, the 30 by 30? The United Nations started pushing this sustainable program called 30 by 30. In other words, 30% of the world's lands, 30% of the world's waterways and oceans would be taken out of use for humans by the year 2030. Okay, it's easy to look it up. You don't have to take my word, but it is a real thing. And it says here, I found it just so I could go over it with you guys. It's called United Nations. The preamble. This agenda is a plan of action for people, planet, and prosperity. It also seeks to strengthen universal peace and larger freedom. We recognize that eradicating poverty in all of its forms and dimensions, including extreme poverty, is the greatest global challenge. We seek, it says here, they have 17 sustainable development goals and 169 targets, which they will be announcing. It goes on to say under planet, we are determined to protect the planet from degradation, including through sustainable consumption and production, sustainably managing its natural resources, and taking urgent action on climate change. Partnership. We are determined to mobilize the means required to implement this agenda through a revitalized global partnership for sustainable development based on a spirit of strengthened global solidarity. The spirit of global solidarity. Okay. It says, on behalf of the people we serve, I guess that would be you and I, the global population, right? We've adopted a historic decision on a comprehensive, far-reaching, and people-centered set of universal and transformative goals and targets. They don't ever really say who the we are. We commit ourselves to working tirelessly for the full implementation of this agenda by 2030. And they have tirelessly been doing it. We had our 2020 election stolen. That has now been proven. Fake voting ballots from China, something like 18 million of them, along with the numerous undocumented illegal aliens that are legally not allowed to vote in federal elections. Yeah, I have a whole video on that from a few months ago. You should check it out. It goes on to say that between now and 2030, to end poverty and hunger everywhere, to combat inequalities within and among countries. In other words, folks, America is up here and South Africa is down here. So we have to do this. You'll never take South Africa and bring it up to America's standards. You would need hundreds of years to do it. But you could easily knock America down. Stand on a chair. I've done this activity with youth in church. Have somebody stand on a chair and reach down and pull their friend up on the chair with them. The goal is for you to stand in the middle of a chair and attempt to pull somebody else up on the chair with you. All of you should try this at home if you have children or grandchildren or just you and your spouse. Let your husband stand in a chair and attempt to pull you up on the chair with him. It's almost impossible. So much easier for the person standing on the ground to pull you out of the chair. That is where America is right now. We're being pulled off the chair. Yeah, let that sink in. So it says, as we embark on this great collective journey, right? A journey you and I didn't sign up for, nor did we want to be part of, but we're obviously going to journey with these people. We pledge that no one will be left behind. Wow. Where have we heard that phrase in America in the past 20 years? No child left behind. Okay. Recognizing that the dignity of the human person is fundamental. We wish to see the goals and targets met for all nations and peoples and for all segments of society. And we will endeavor to reach the furthest behind first. So, in other words, we're going to go to the back of the line to the countries and the people that instead of building things, destroy things, and we're going to usher them to the front because that's only fair. Everybody deserves a trophy. All right. So it goes on to talk about taking out land usage across the world, especially in America. And Joe Biden became darn close to meeting the 2030 agenda in America in his 4 short, befuddled auto pen years. He came very close, friends. Right now, 28% of America, our land, is owned by the federal government. You can't build on it. You can't remove natural resources from it. You can hunt with a special privileged license. What does that sound like to you? It reminds me of history in class when I was learning about the kings and the queens in England, how they owned these hunting acres, like it'd be 1,000 acres, but only the kings and queens and their elites were allowed to hunt for food within these areas. Only the rich owned the land. Everybody else just worked to keep these people propped up in their lifestyles. Kind of reminds me of America today, doesn't it? Where, we have federal lands where only specific allowed people can use them. You hear all these no king protests, right? Yet they're pushing for a federal government that would install kings in tiny turfdoms around America, little fiefdoms, if you will. And it's shocking to me how people can't see the similarities and what we're dealing with in America now and what people dealt with in England in the 1600s, the 1700s, and on, right? The elites just came over a few years after America was created and decided they needed to recreate the golden years of England right here in America. And there's a sub portion of Americans that just fell in line. Okay, take all these federal lands. That's great. Protect the environment. Look, guys, I'm a no-till, organic, sustainable grower. I sequester carbon all the time. However, I believe that all this land in the West should be used by people, not just sitting there. Look how much of California is red. You want to know why you can't find affordable housing in California? Look at it. Yeah, just something for you to think about. But I want to read an article that I found when I was researching this for you guys. Excuse me. I used to be part of the Sierra Club, right? Used to have a membership and everything with these people. I stopped. They actually funded the No Kings protest. This was written June 17th, 2025. It says, since January 20th, the Trump administration has announced a plethora of ideas for America's public lands, like boosting energy production, increasing logging and mining, even building data centers. Administration officials recently unveiled a new plan, building housing on public lands. However, like most of President Donald Trump's plans, it involves a lot of smoke and mirrors and handouts to the wealthy and leaves average Americans holding the bag. Excuse me. It's no secret that the United States is facing a housing shortage. A recent survey found that 76% of Americans believe the affordability of housing is a serious problem. In a response to this crisis, the White House debuted the concepts of a plan to build affordable housing. Doug Burnham and Housing and Urban Development Secretary Scott Turner announced a joint agency task force to explore building affordable homes on federal lands in the West. The plan is light on details, but they claim it will kick off a housing boom for communities. Unfortunately, for the thousands of American families looking for housing, Trump's plan isn't really about affordable housing. Of course, it isn't. In reality, Trump and his allies seem more focused on privatizing public lands across the West. The acting director of the Bureau of Land Management, also known as BLM, suggested his agency could privatize 400,000 acres of certain public lands as initial targets for Trump's plan. Meanwhile, the conservative leaning American Enterprise Institute and U.S. Chamber of Commerce are promoting their own proposal. They're calling for selling public lands to private developers. Meanwhile, other administration actions are undercutting the federal government's ability to do anything about this crisis. Elon Musk and the Department of Government Efficiency want to slash the Department of Housing and Urban Development's 8,300 person staff to half. Doge has fired as many as 2,300 staff at the Department of the Interior, including 10% of the BLM staff. And hovering in the background are the concrete actions the Trump administration has already taken regarding public lands. On day one, Trump signed a flurry of executive orders seeking to eliminate protections from public lands to boost oil and gas production. He has ordered land managers to prioritize mining on public lands. He's opened up more than half of our national forests to corporate logging and announced intentions to reduce or eliminate national monuments. Now, that sounds terrible, doesn't it? It does. I'll agree. It sounds terrible. Let me explain something to y'all. Our federal lands were intentionally placed where the most oil was. Our public lands were intentionally placed where we had the greatest natural resources. Let me tell you something. America should not be importing any wood from anywhere in the world. We should not be importing oil from anywhere in the world. We should not be importing anything that we can mine on our own lands. It makes no sense to me. Want to know why everybody in America is broke, busted, and disgusted? Because they took our natural resources and boxed them in and said it's only for the elite. When we decide you guys can use this, we'll let you. They have bankrupted America, the UN, WHO, and everybody else by saying that we have to help everybody else. We have to buy their products because we have to be nice. That's what made America great, was us being nice. I'm a sovereign citizen of the United States. I'm not a global citizen. I'm not interested in buying part of the rainforest that South Americans are destroying and building my house with it. Do you see what I'm saying? If we keep purchasing from third world countries that don't have anything in place to protect natural resources, we're actually doing more damage to the world than just creating it here in America, where we have watchdogs and we can be like, no, that's 1,000-year-old forest. You can't cut it down. They're destroying the rainforest as we speak right now. It's like 100 acres a minute. They're destroying so they can produce wood to send around the world. We don't need to buy their wood. We don't need to buy the Saudis' oil. Why are we propping up the Middle East by buying their oil? Somebody's getting rich. Is it the same people that put our federal lands in this, 30% of America, 28 to be exact, 28% of American lands are off use for you. It's 30% of our country. that's got a big red spot on top of it that says, no, you can't use this. No, you can't hunt here. No, you can't fish here unless you have a special license. I'm just saying, I don't think it's right. I'm not a big believer in federal lands. I think it was a joke. I think it was always put there to control us. Let me read an article that was written in 2024. It's called All the World's a Stage: How Predictive Program Crafts Far-Right Ex-Users Worldwide. This is how the left really feels about you and I. Are you ready? Because it's interesting. This insight investigates how far-right Twitter users construct their worldview around fictional media and predictive program. That is the notion that a group known as the elite, supposedly consisting of members of various international organizations from the United States, the United Kingdom, political leadership, and intelligence agencies, as well as multinational corporations, forewarned international public of its future nefarious plans using fictional media such as movies and TV shows. In particular, this insight explores how far-right ex-users claim that the movies Leave the World Behind in 2023 and Civil War in 2024 were attempts by the elite to issue advanced warnings for the Dallas collusion and the Key Bridge, as well as future debilitating cyber attacks in the Second American Civil War. This insight then further probes how fictional media mold far-right Twitter users worldwide. By examining the origins and development of a strange and outlandish conspiracy theory pertaining to COVID-19 vaccines known as purebloods. Those adherents espouse definitively eugenist and neo-Nazi beliefs. This insight concludes by assessing how much conspiratorial thinking facilitates the erosion of critical discourse and media literacy vital to the healthy functioning of democratic societies. So they believe that you and I support eugenics. Okay, if you don't know what eugenics is, it's what the Nazis used to get rid of the Jews. Eugenics is what caused Planned Parenthood to be created and then placed in Black communities across America and on Native American Indian reservations. You will never find an abortion clinic in the upper suburbs of New York City or anywhere money is. You will never find someone that's worth $1 million on death row. Why is that? It's not because of us far-right conspiracy theorists, right? It goes on and on. I'm going to link all of this in the description of the video so you can go read these articles. It says that predictive programming in the movie Leave the World Behind, a hidden QR code appears briefly over a cyber attack power outage map during the movie. This may be worth taking a closer look. We know they have to tell us. So they're using this off of Twitter, off of X, as an example of far-right conspiracy. It goes on to say another X user whose account has over 885,000 followers claimed the Leave the World Behind, along with an educational video produced by the World Economic Forum, warning about the dangers of cyber attacks, indicated that the public was being programmed for a future cyber pandemic. The World Economic Forum and its founder, Klaus Schwab, are frequent targets for the far-right conspiracy theorists who opine that the organization is plotting to take away people's freedoms. Another recent film that has generated much discussion among far-right X-users is Civil War. Produced by Studio A24 and it released on April 12, 2024. Far-right X-users allege that Civil War, which depicts the travels of several journalists en route from New York City to Washington to interview an authoritarian third-term U.S. president, is a warning from the elite of an impending real-life Second American War that the elite themselves are apparently seeking to instigate. Yeah. All right. I don't know about you guys, and since I can't see your comments because YouTube decided to be a jerk, it's very frustrating to me to know what they're doing. But I do have a clip about predictive programming, and I want you guys to just listen real fast.
War against the First Amendment, a war against God's word, liberty of conscience. Next is going to be war against free worship, freedom of religion. Also, I'm going to be addressing with my host, my co-host, my guest today, weather modification. And along with that, we'll also be addressing predictive programming. And today I have my special guest, no stranger here, Marie Diaz from Eyes on the Times. Welcome, Marie.
Thank you, Pastor. Never let a good crisis go to waste, right?
That's what they say. Never let a good crisis go to waste. Let's get right into it. So what's trending right now?
Right. Well, we're going to jump right into this first article, and as you mentioned, there's a war on misinformation. So when you take a look at this article from New York Times, it tells us that misinformation is getting in the way. And of course, this is in the context of this recent hurricane, specifically Hurricane Helene. When you look at this next article from AP News, they're telling us that this rhetoric is truly a dangerous narrative. And of course, there's always a narrative, and they don't want us to deviate from that narrative. And as you continue looking at this next article from The Hill, I just want you to realize that the quote unquote misinformation is running so rampant that they had to establish an official rumor response page. And so this is important as we're moving forward in this presentation. So let's just take a look at this clip here where they're going to discuss that.
Let's roll that.
As rescue operations continue on the ground in the southeast, officials are working to not just clear debris and look for survivors, they're also separating fact from fiction amid rumors and misinformation that have spread online in the aftermath of the storm. Officials say former President Donald Trump is among those amplifying false claims. He's accused the federal government of withholding aid from Republican areas and claimed without evidence that relief money is being diverted elsewhere.
$1 billion was stolen from FEMA to use it for illegal migrants, many former criminals, to come into our country.
The problem getting so out of hand, FEMA launching a rumor response page on its website, addressing that claim and many others.
Right. So as we continue looking at this, there's another article from CNN. Again, so we're equating the two, where they're saying that too much information and not enough money. So that's largely what this crisis is about, at least as far as the quote unquote misinformation is concerned. And I just want to point out the fact that for those that are on the right, what they're looking at is they're seeing that, or they believe that the money has been misappropriated, right? Those on the right are actually pointing to some of the statements that have been made by the current administration. And of course, they mentioned the fact that they have used some of the FEMA funding to fund migrants. And of course, those that are on the left, they object to that, right? What they're saying is that the money that FEMA used for the migrants had nothing to do with the funding that's used for the hurricane victims. And so I just want us to also bear in mind that this is in the backdrop of us sending billions of dollars to Ukraine and also to Israel more recently. And so many of the individuals who are suffering from this recent hurricane, they kind of feel like the $750 that have been given to these hurricane victims is a slap in the face. And so it's becoming really a political issue. And so we're going to take a look at another clip here. And what I want your audience to really pay attention to is what is the result of this rhetoric that's happening? What are some of the individuals, how are they responding to the new revelation, of not having enough funding? So let's take a listen to that.
Let's talk about some of the misinformation that is out there, including these claims from former President Trump that FEMA is about $1 billion short because money has been going to undocumented immigrants. Also, that the areas of the Republican areas of the state are being intentionally ignored in some fashion.
It's frankly ridiculous and just plain false. This kind of rhetoric is not helpful to people. It's really a shame that we're putting politics of...
Aren't y'all sick of them? Aren't you sick of them? Okay, so let me just clarify for you. It was proven in Florida that there were FEMA agents that flat said if there was a Trump flag or Trump 2025, 2024, don't help those people. That was proven. All right. There's lawsuits going on right now from people from Florida suing FEMA. There were employees that were fired for the behavior that she claimed was false. It was proved, like they proved it, that billions of FEMA's money was moved out and given to undocumented illegal aliens. Folks, listen up. Why can the news lie to us like this? Why can our officials lie to you and I with impunity? There is something called Operation Mockingbird. It was a CIA undercover operation that went on in America using the New York Times. It says, these ethical concerns over journalists cooperating with U.S. intelligence agencies became much more acute during the late 1960s and 1970s. In 1967, a series of high-profile newspaper stories revealed that the CIA had been secretly funding various civil society groups and organizations, including well-known media outlets such as Encounter magazine and the Paris Review. In the decade that followed, that means up until the end of the 70s, a number of other revelations underscored the inherent controversy of CIA officers working with and influencing media outlets. In the U.S. Senate, the Church Committee, tasked with investigating the many scandals and abuses that had rocked the U.S. intelligence community in this era, concluded the CIA maintained covert relationships with 50 American journalists or employees of U.S. media organizations. This series of revelations culminated in 1977 when Carl Bernstein, who had previously played a major role in revealing the Watergate scandal, published an article in the Rolling Stone alleging the existence of a vast network of paid and unpaid CIA contacts in the U.S. media. The story produced another outcry, and coupled with the conclusions of the Church Committee, led to a series of congressional hearings on the matter, forcing the CIA to draw up guidelines that restricted its ability to work with journalists and publicly renounce the practice of using U.S. journalists as paid sources. That stood as American law until Obama became president. During the Obama regime, he changed those laws. Let that sink in. What you have been living in and under since Biden, Obama, whatever you want to call them, the Clintons, the Bushes, has been a complete and utter MK Ultra psyop on the American people. You have been from 9/11 on lied to by media. You cannot even trust your local news station because they don't do investigative journalism any longer. They are sent a sheet of paper with an outline, and this is what they do. Hello, welcome back to Channel 9. My name is Samantha Starkey, and oh, do we have to tell you what's going on in the world today. But if you go to another channel, it's the same spiel. And another channel, it's the shame spiel. You get my point. Please make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you are still subscribed. Listen up, folks. We are going to Zoom together. We're Zooming on Monday. Be looking, if you get the newsletter, be looking in your email. Leslie will send out how to get on the Zoom and when to be on the Zoom. If you would like to participate in that, look in the top of comments at the end of this live, and I will tell you how you can get the newsletter and the Zoom while supporting our channel because we no longer get paid by YouTube. All right, guys. So we talked about Project Mockingbird. We talked about what entertainment means and what it is. We talked about predictive programming. We talked about affordable housing, the 2030 agenda, the 30 by 30, the tribal lands, protected lands, the Bureau of Land Management, also known as BLM. We talked about how this is starting to look a lot like 1600 England, the 1600s in England. I just want you guys to understand that we are fighting a ruling class in this country. And I just don't understand. Maybe it's just me, but I'm not sure how people can vote at this stage in American history with Democrats because they're obviously not working for the benefit of America. It says predictive programming in the context of media and culture refers to the idea that media, particularly entertainment, influences and prepares audiences for future events, societal changes, or even specific agendas. You guys all remember the movie where they had the young girl. What's the name of it? She was the Mockingbird. Y'all can't type, because they won't let you, but you understand what I'm saying. This movie.
I counted 12.
Midnight.
And the number of districts.
Y'all remember that movie, right? The Hunger Games? So much predictive programming in that movie. Everybody was broken up into districts. Each district produced a product. Every so many years, you gave up a kid under the age of 15 to fight in the Hunger Games so that no one would ever forget what hunger was about. They used everything from artificial fog that burned people, right? To, they had the web in the sky controlling the fake weather. Mm-hmm. But they also had the Mockingjay. That's the pin she wore. And they even had that part where the Mockingjays were driving her insane, all repeating her family's voices, screaming and hollering. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's bigger than you think it is, friends. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's provable. It's provable because the documents are out on the CIA webpage. You can search for it yourself. You don't have to listen to people that you don't know and you've never met tell you what's going on. You could dig into this yourself. All the information's there.
This is what
I
we're
found it
gonna
in
do
30
here.
minutes.
We're just going to take a look at this website here. And this is actually a legitimate website, from Tampa Bay. It's called Project Phoenix 2.0, right? And it says, and the video that we're going to eventually play was created 4 years ago, right? And the video was a simulation. It says a hurricane simulation for Tampa Bay small businesses and emergency management agencies, right? So they created this hurricane simulation. And when I tell you, down to the very date, I hope your audience catches this because I'm going to reiterate it. The very date that they used for this hurricane to take place is the exact date that Milton hit. I just can't even wrap my mind around that. But not just that, there were other similarities there. Where the hurricane hit, Tampa Bay, all sorts of things that were to take place during the simulation we're seeing. And this is what is so startling. And this is why I referenced that quote from Sister White, is because we're told that Satan is already at work. He's already doing things to bring about some of these crises. And so we're going to take a look at this video here. And the video was 20 minutes long. And so we tried to condense it as much so that you can see again, predictive programming and how they're actually able to work through the elements. So let's take a look at this video here.
Here it is.
And we have Category 1 Hurricane Phoenix just south of Jamaica now. Phoenix is currently expected to...
Wait. That is a simulation with October 10th?
October 10th. Your audience can go back and look at it for themselves. October 10th. And when did Milton hit? Today.
I just want to make sure they saw that and comprehended that. Mm-hmm. Let's continue.
And we have Category 1 Hurricane Phoenix just south of Jamaica now. Phoenix is currently expected to make landfall in the Yucatan Peninsula as a Category 2 storm. But of course, always, we are keeping a close eye on this system. There has been a noticeable shift in the forecast track from the NHC overnight, which now brings Phoenix into our viewing area, possibly as a strong hurricane. Now is the time to begin those preparations, folks. We cannot stress enough how crucial it is that you finish your storm preparations tonight. Conditions will deteriorate rapidly tomorrow morning, and evacuation routes will quickly become impassable. Please don't take this lightly and heed all evacuation alerts. Phoenix is now a Category 5 hurricane with maximum sustained winds at 160 miles an hour. The wind gusts up to 200 miles per hour. This is catastrophic. I believe this is near Kawa Coffee, and as you can see, the storm surge has completely inundated downtown. Law enforcement now is reporting that all bridges have been cut off by storm surge. We're looking at up to 20 feet of storm surge in some spots.
We're trapped on the third floor of the Tampa General Hospital parking garage, and the storm surge is up to the second floor of the hospital.
St. Petersburg is essentially an island right now.
The damage this morning is unimaginable. The beaches are essentially gone.
The Howard Franklin Bridge is completely destroyed. I've never seen anything like this.
Officials are scrambling to clean up debris from local airports in order for supplies to be flown in.
Can you imagine? Can you just imagine? Now, I don't know if the damage that was predicted in the simulation is actually going to take place, but can you imagine? If, we're told that, God's spirit is being withdrawn. And, once Satan takes control, I don't think we can imagine what he is going to unleash on God's people, and it's just a scary thought to think of that. There's one point yes.
Before we go there, but as you see the simulation, we must also be reminded that just before the pandemic hit, they also had simulations.
They did.
They even wrote out movies as a simulation, and everything in that movie, in those simulations, actually took place. So what we're seeing now might be or it may be in the next one or the subsequent one. So these things are simply telling us to get ready. Secondly, it's going to take something catastrophic to cause the people to cry out and say, we are willing to give up everything so we can be saved, so God can bless America. If it's even to give up our constitutional rights, we'll do it. What? Worship on Sunday so God can bless America? Turn this nation back to God? If that is the solution, we will go along with it. So some will believe it, mark in their foreheads. Others do it based on compromise, the mark in their right hand. It's going to take something catastrophic, earth-shattering, earth-moving to cause them to want to say, we want the mark of the beast to be implemented. Now, what I just said is in the Bible.
He's right. It is in the Bible. It is in the Bible. Folks, let me tell you something. I myself do believe we're moving into the end times. I've said that repeatedly. But I also know that that's up to God. It's not up to Samantha, right? Like I'm just here to do what the Father has called me to do, to walk out every day of my life what the Lord has told me to do. I don't think we have a strong enough church at this moment, but I think we're moving there because I see something great coming. I know we see all the negativity, like we know what's happening, but I see people in the federal government fighting back against the shadow government. You know why I know they're fighting back? Because they're being attacked. Kristi Noem being poisoned, having her purse stolen. We've got federal agents being chased down the road with knife welding illegal immigrants. The fight is happening at all levels across this country. We have not lost. The fight is not over until Jesus comes back for us. Do not sit down. Do not put your head in the sand. Please join us in our newsletter and our Zoom. It's well worth your time, folks. I've got to go. That's all I've got for you today. Just something for you to think about this weekend. When you're seeing a movie talking about a fungus spreading across America, and then you see in the news that a CCP undercover student visa on a visa, like a student visa from China, snuck in a fungus that could be considered a bioterrorist organism for agriculture. When you see those things, you can't ignore it. I don't care what the left calls it. As far as I'm concerned, everybody in the left is in a cult. They don't think freely. They can't. Not to mention they are not nice people. So I love you guys very much. Be blessed. Be safe. Please make sure that you are still subscribed. Folks, we don't always have to agree. But let's just put it this way. I'm pretty good at bringing receipts and showing you what's happening in the world. I don't agree with my parents, my children, my best friend, or my husband all the time. But I understand when I see something that's real. When somebody says, Sam, did you know that 28% of the United States is caught up in land that you can't use? And then I see that the UN has the 30 by 30 plan to put 30% of American property by 2030 in the hands of the government and out of the hands of the people. I'm not dumb. I recognize the pattern. And so do most of you. Pray, but do more than pray. Do more than pray. Be part of the solution. You can do that by meeting with us on Zoom. We're not asking you to run outside with, weapons and do anything crazy. We're going to be putting you guys grouped up by state so you can learn your state constitution. So you can learn what Americans' rights are. So you can learn how to report people that are being trafficked across America. Who do you turn that into? That's what we do during our Zooms. We educate, we communicate, We work together as a unit, just like the left. Know thy enemy. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. I love you guys. Be blessed, be prosperous, and have an amazing weekend.